at CRE 2024 in Milton Keynes. I'm Chris from Monkeynut, and it's great to have you here on the CRE podcast. I'm joined this time by Jacob Vince, the Chief Executive of CFI. Jacob, great to have you here. Thank you.
It's very good to be here.
Tell us what CFI is, because if anybody is unaware of CFI, it's just 3 letters, but there's more to it than that, of course. Tell us what CFI is.
Well, CFI stands for Christian Friends of Israel, and we're in the UK, so we're Christian Friends of Israel here in the UK. And what do we do? Well, there is a Christian Friends of Israel in Jerusalem, and they tend to deal with assisting with Israel on various projects. They do, for example, home visits to Holocaust survivors, because there's quite a number still, and they're often quite isolated, so that's one of the things we do. Particularly at the moment with the troubles, they've been assisting some of those that are displaced. They have a kind of a warehouse where people can have white goods, and particularly at the moment visiting some of the communities that suffered from the attacks and are trying to rebuild their lives, some going back to the kibbutzim and others. So that's what they do there. Here in the UK, effectively we've got 3 strands, so that's our assisting communities in Israel. Here in the UK, we're here to encourage understanding in the wider church of Israel in the context of the Bible, history and current affairs. And that's why we like to come to festivals like this, where we can meet all comers and we try and help our understanding. When the Apostle Paul was writing his letter to the, by that stage, Gentilized church, because the Jews had been exiled under Claudius, he gave some clear instructions as the apostle to the Gentiles. He reinforced that they shouldn't be ignorant and they shouldn't be arrogant. So encouraging understanding and to doing so humbly is a very important part of our work here in the UK. And then we also do a little bit of challenging prejudice alongside against Israel, alongside the Jewish community and anti-Semitism. So those are the kind of 3 strands. But here we are today at CRE, and we've come to CRE anywhere where there is an opportunity for a platform to help people to understand. And I know there's a crisis at the moment, but actually, and perhaps our best work isn't done, or there's a lot of interest during that period, because I think you have to bring it back, to some of the essential, the broader understanding. We tend to think about one thing, we need to think about an awful lot. There's a lot of contributory factors to where we are today. Some, of course, within the Bible, some in a very sorry church history as well, of anti-Semitism towards the Jewish people. So I suppose our role essentially is to show our faith, which we haven't done very well probably over the last 2 millennia, and that actually enables us to share our faith better.
Yeah, I didn't want to be too downbeat, because it is a downbeat subject that we're going to be talking about. And I'll try and be a bit more positive where we can.
All right. Yeah, please do.
But you spoke about the pushback. How much pushback do you get against what you're doing as an organisation, as a charity? How much pushback do you find from people from the work that you're doing?
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding out there, so that's why we're trying to encourage understanding. You hear the word Israel, and immediately in everyone's mind they have different thoughts or views. That's why it's so good to speak in person. It's much harder actually and that's why these festivals are great, because you're there in person. It's much harder to do it online through social media, because what happens then is you tend to be focused, people, the algorithms point you in a particular direction, so you only hear one side of the story. So try and get the breadth is very important for us. Pushback, we do get some, and there are very strong views and opinions, and even some festivals or organisers would be reluctant to tackle this subject, but that then leaves it in the, it leaves a vacuum in the public domain for anyone who shouts the loudest or speaks hardest on the subject, whereas we're trying to be more conciliatory. Let's have a look at the big picture. Let's try and help everyone within Israel. For example, Israel itself is the population within Israel, 20% are not Jewish. I'm very close to the Christian Aramaics. We've had speakers over here from the Palestinian area, Bethlehem, Beit Jala, that sort of thing. So trying to actually, but largely within Israel, the 2 million Arab population, by and large, seem to be quite content to be to be there. I mean, there are always issues in any society. But it's a democracy. So at least you have the freedom there. So my friends in the north at the moment, they've got a lot of their relatives or cousins. They're all cousins there, but in the Christian Aramaic community, the Maronites are in Lebanon and have been suffering terribly under a terrorist organisation, Hezbollah. Whereas they're grateful for the freedom they have within Israel and actually been granted their own ethnic identity as Aramaic Christians. They trace the history back to Antioch. So, whether that's absolutely correct or not, I don't know, but they still speak Aramaic. You can go there and visit as we would, and I've stayed up there many times. And so there's a lot more complexity in the region than one would think. And of course, it's very troubling at the moment with the, in the Gaza area. I've never visited Gaza itself, but have been to the goods crossing points and spoken to the guys there, some of whom used to live in Gaza when there was a Jewish section there. Unfortunately, there's a terror organisation that got control of that, and they ended up using it as a launch pad to attack Israel, regardless of trying to help their own citizens, whereas Israel is trying to defend their citizens. So it's one of those very difficult things, really.
It's such a complex subject, isn't it?
It is.
And I don't think we've got time to get into it entirely here.
Yeah.
But I think what I'd like to ask you is, you did mention that you've been out to Israel.
Sure.
Are you able to paint Israel in a better light, in a more humble light for us? Because we see on TV and in the news bombs flying, missiles going off here, there, and everywhere. Is there a part of Israel for you which is still got that humbling kind of, this is Israel, this is the holy place, does it still have some of that charm? If we take out all the war, what does Israel look like for you?
Well, I think in terms of a location to go and visit under normal circumstances, these aren't normal circumstances, to be fair. It's a remarkable place. The archaeology, in one sense, the curators of the land, the Jewish curators at the moment, really prize archaeology, whereas some other movements around the world, which are not democracies, will try and destroy it. So they preserve it. So a friend of mine has just done and been involved in the excavation of the lost city of Bethsaida. He spoke at our conference 2 weekends ago. And it's phenomenal. When you visit some of these areas, and we've actually had a chance to visit, they're just a lovely setting. He was the only one that doing an archaeological dig during during September it was. So beginning of September, and he's going back again. That's the only one happening. It's a great shame that those things are not there. But when you see some of these places, the Galilee, and actually even Jerusalem, for all of the different, ethnic, sections there, it actually is a remarkably peaceful city. You generally can wander around and walk around extremely safely. And we were there in June, and apart from the fact there's not so much construction because the Palestinians would normally be coming over involved in that, in terms of the cafes, it's very eclectic, it's very mixed. A lot of the hotels are run by Arabs anyway. They seem to be better, at performing that role of working together. But you wouldn't. It's just like a buzzing city, like London would be in some areas. So that's good. Tel Aviv's a different kind. It's probably more the secular end, and I'm not wanting to go necessarily down that, but I did get a chance to go to the Gaza envelope and meet, with some of the survivors of that attack, the Nova Festival, Kibbutz Be'eri. But other than that, when the time comes, Israel will open up the doors, and it's beneficial for everyone when there is good tourism going. It's just that there's a couple of quite significant terrorist organisations that are currently creating a lot of difficulty.
Yeah.
And hopefully, and it's not easy to deal with. I don't think the Lebanese want Hezbollah there at all, the general Lebanese, but no one else is strong enough in the region to stop what's been going on. So and Israel, is a very small country in many respects. They're trying to preserve it and preserve their population. And so when it opens up, we'll try and get out there for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad you've painted that picture of the other side of it, because as I say, we do hear and just see on the news or on social media just that war-torn country. And as you've just described, it's not entirely like that. And we only see a glimpse of really what's going on. So thank you for sharing that with us. Let's just bring it back to the UK just a little bit and talk about some of the things you're doing in the UK with CFI. Just go into how you're helping people in the UK.
Well, like I said, a lot of it, our work is focused towards the church, to helping them understand. But obviously, we do from time to time have opportunity to work alongside the Jewish community. We were there just in Hyde Park on Sunday. There were about 40 stalls, about 2 or 3 of them were Christian Foundation, like we would be. And you know, it was commemoration, remembering. But just as the Jewish people walking by, frankly, it was just brought tears to your eyes, brought tears to their eyes that there were Christians there that were there to be supportive. And, you know, someone to take a photograph of our stall. I mean, it's only a little table with a few bits of material there. So that was very heartwarming. So that's one of the things we've done, but it's not necessarily what we would do. We do sometimes do a lobby of Parliament, so we've done that. On various different things. Pledges for Peace was one of them, which we went to the parliamentarians with at one point, alongside the Jewish community, so that was nice. We just done our annual conference, and we had this speaker who's been involved in the archaeological dig at Bethsaida, just literally hot off the press. He literally just come over, and what they've found there is incredible. And then at the festival, so this one, of course, we would have been at others, which we were in Manchester, it could have been, or Liverpool the time before. We were at Midlands last time, and other ones, you know, you'll know what they are. They don't compete in that sort of sense, like Awaken or Creation Fest. No,
of course not.
New Wine, and we can't go to all of them, but I just really enjoy speaking to people that are interesting to learn, and I learn from them too. So I like to see also, you know, as many sides of the argument as it's possible to see, and there's multiple contributing factors to any situation. My real heart is actually how we understand the Bible better, and so I've developed a Bible reading plan, reading in the order that Jesus appeared to be referred to by Luke in the Law, the Psalms, Law, the Prophets, and the Psalms. And then I tend to call the final section the Apostles, or the Apostles' teaching. And there's a reading plan where you read 10 weeks on the Law, so the 5 books of Moses, 2 weeks each. Then you come into the historical prophets and then the oracle prophets. You then move, which is processing, you know, the parameters that you've been given. Then you come to the Psalms, which processes it. So Psalms is in 5 books, like the 5 books of Moses, and it ends with some extra post-exile, exile and post-exile books of Esther, Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah, and then Chronicles, which summarizes from the beginning, Adam, through to going up to Jerusalem, the return from the exile. Of course, then you come to Matthew, and Matthew, and of course, Chronicles is all about genealogies. So Matthew begins with genealogies. Matthew's written in 5 parts, like the 5 books of Moses, the 5 Psalms, and then you're then reading that story in a more continuing process. So it's God's unfolding revelation, and through covenants, the covenant with initially with Adam, with Noah, with Abraham, with Moses, with David, and with Jesus. They all fit in together.
You've really thought about that. That's really, really fascinating. Thank you so much for trying to unpack so much of Israel in a little time. If anybody wants to find out more about CFI, where can they go online?
It's cfi.org.uk is our website, so they're welcome to go on there. And our email, if anyone wants to email, is info@cfi.org.uk.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Any good exhibitors, Christian exhibitions, will try and be there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And if you want to find out more about what's happening at CRE this year, or perhaps next year, or even last year, why don't you go to the website? It's creonline.co.uk.